Another day, another 90s thriller. We originally intended to do The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but supposedly I don't own it, which is insane because it's a favorite of mine. I showed it to Kaylee, but it must not have been on a disc that I own. I thought it was. I'm going to have to look back through my collection, but I keep a record of them on my phone, and I searched, and it ain't there, so I don't get it. I thought I owned this on Blu-ray, but I don't. So then we were going to watch Eyes Wide Shut. And that's streaming nowhere except for renting. And we were like, well, and then I was like, well, another movie that gets recommended a bunch when we talked about doing 90s thrillers is Copycat. And that one I do own on this 4-pack with The Crush, as well as Diabolique and Pacific Heights, which we already did. And I didn't even realize I owned it because we watched it on streaming.
Yeah.
So... Copycat. This one stars Sigourney Weaver and Holly Hunter. You know Holly Hunter from The Burning fame. She might have done some other things too, but that. Also has Dermot Mulroney in it, who seems to pop up in everything these days, so it's kind of fun to see him young here.
So young. This is, I think, the youngest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, he's young in this one. He's not like a kid or anything. He's probably in his...
20s?
Maybe
30s?
his early 30s.
I don't know.
We also have Will Patton in here and Harry Connick Jr., the singer, which I've seen him in a few movies. I don't know, my brain didn't make the connection that that's the singer, that he like turned actor, but I remember him being like the Will Smith's like wingman in Independence Day and stuff like that, and it just made that connection to like, oh yeah, that is that like singer guy. And he plays the first killer that comes after her. And he's a real psycho in this.
Yeah, he is.
He portrays that really, really well. And this also is one of the rarer thrillers of the 90s because this is not based on a book. This is an actual original screenplay, so I find that to be a little rarer when it comes to these. I feel like everyone we watch is based on some novel.
Yeah.
As to where this one, nope, totally original screenplay. And reading through the trivia on IMDb, it said that Sigourney Weaver is most proud of her work in this movie. That she really, really tried very hard to portray someone who was agoraphobic and was, new serial killers and all that stuff. So that's interesting. Of all the works that she's done in her life.
Yeah.
And she was like bummed that this kind of got lost in the shuffle of the endless 90s thrillers and kind of is forgotten now.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's forgotten because we got a ton of people who were like Copycat down in the comments, so I think it's kind of got a little bit of a cult classic.
It seems like it.
Now status. So, all right, so let's jump into it. Of the ones we've watched, with all of the like detectiving, not including Fear, because that's not a detective thriller. This is a detective thriller.
Yes.
So of all the detective thrillers that we've watched, this is definitely. This might be my favorite of them. Bone Collector and this, I guess, are like kind of tied. Or this one, maybe I liked it a little more. I really liked the concept here. I thought it was really cool. We got Sigourney who gets attacked in the beginning, and then becomes agoraphobic. She can't leave her house. And there's some killings going on in town. Holly Hunter and Dermot Mulroney are investigating it together, and this ultimately leads them to Helen Hudson, played by Sigourney Weaver, and she figures out that this is indeed a copycat, and he is recreating kills from iconic serial killers such as... He never gets to Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
But he does do Dahmer, and he does David Berkowitz, and he does some real famous murders and stages them identically.
Yeah.
He likes to make sure they are perfect replicas of the crime scene photos. And I think that's cool. I don't know if that's ever been a thing. I know there's copycat killers that exist, but I don't know if anyone's ever like copycatted multiple killers.
Yeah.
They usually, from what I know, they copycat specific killers.
They have one that they're like fixated on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you think of this one?
I like this one. I think I'm probably with you on this being like the favorite as far as the detective ones go. I think that I really liked the, like, besides Sigourney Weaver's character, the protagonist cop character.
Holly Hunter.
I really liked her.
MJ. Every time they kept saying MJ, I was thinking of Spider-Man.
Yeah, MJ. I liked her. I thought she was very, like, funny and, like, just kind of sarcastic. And I don't know. I really liked her performance.
Do you think they based her off of friggin' Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs? Clarice?
I don't know, because I have seen Silence of the Lambs. I've seen it a few times, but I don't remember her character being like that. I don't remember her character being like
it's just
super
like
snarky or anything.
It's the accent, and she is like petite and next to like a lot of big dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That aspect, yes.
Sure, I was getting
that,
flavors of her.
I think that, I mean, even with, like, in The Bone Collector, even her character, Angelina Jolie's character, I think that the 90s definitely had, like, a thing for petite women in detective roles. And probably because of Silence of the Lambs being...
And Scully.
For sure. Which is fine. Like, I think it's a trope, for sure. But I liked her character in this. I liked MJ. I did like, what is her character? Sigourney Weaver's character?
Helen.
Helen
Hudson.
Helen Hudson. I liked her, too. As far as her portrayal of, like, an agoraphobic, I think she did a pretty good job. I think that the effects for whenever she is, like, leaving her house and her vision's getting all wonky, or even when she's in her house and she starts having, like, panic attacks. Like, I don't really like the effects, but I like that they're trying to show what happens to your vision when you have, like, a panic attack, because that's definitely a key feature for, myself and a lot of people.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
So when I saw it, very few people are going to get this reference, but you'll know because we just watched it not too long ago. But it's the vision that Joe gets in the Stoned Age when he's going to throw up.
Yeah. It's like just like slanty, basically. Like everything becomes like a diagonal.
Yeah, they warp it.
Yeah.
And kind of start making it move.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do the effect. I don't know if it's a lens. I would assume it's a lens.
Yeah. I appreciate that they're doing it because, like, they're trying to show what disassociation and anxiety, like, does to the vision. So,
it's a better visual representation of agoraphobia versus the blindness in Bloodsport.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, it is.
Just foggy edges and then everything is crystal clear in the center.
Yeah.
I'm blind.
And, I did like that the theme of the killer is to be, I mean, like, as the name, a copycat, that he's going through and recreating all these famous serial killers because, I don't know, I think that's a unique little... It's kind of a cop-out in some ways because it's like we're not going to make our own serial killer with, like, his own signature move. We're just going to use all these real-life ones and, like, have him redo them. But honestly, like, the real-life ones are absolutely horrific and awful. So... I think it works in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like kind of it's like, it would be like a slasher movie where the slasher is trying to recreate a Jason kill, a Michael kill, or whatever, right? And it's like the sleeping bag against the tree or anything, and it's like, oh, get your own kills. So in a movie like that, it would probably be very plagiarizing.
Yeah.
But in here, it just adds to the psychosis of the character.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this guy so obsessed with other killers?
Yeah, so I think it works. I think my biggest, like, what I wanted from the film that we didn't really get is I was wanting, like, an analysis of him. Like, I wanted to know more, like you said, like, why is he so obsessed with copying these other killers? And I'm a little, I won't say confused, but I guess the ending is, like, because that guy, like, was saying, like, he has people that follow him and, like, all this stuff, and so he's, like, writing to another fan who he's encouraging to start killing. So are we supposed to believe that that's what happened? Because he said that the copycat killer wrote him a bunch of letters. So is he supposed to have been, like, radicalized, I guess, by this other, serial killer? Or that's, I guess, what I was wondering.
So I think anybody who's writing a serial killer in prison in a friendly way is probably on the edge anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would be writing them unless you were mentally ill, unless, of course, you're, like, trying to study them. But for the most part, I feel like people who send letters to people in prison, like Serial Mom.
Oh my gosh.
She's,
Yeah.
They're really easy to push over the edge. So yeah, I think the end it might be suggesting that this guy, because as it says, this is his first kill.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they think anyway. Because once serial killers start, typically that just opens the floodgates. Right? Some killers kill and then they take a hiatus because they think they're going to get caught, and when they don't get caught, the thrill just is in them, and they're like they just can't seem to resist the urge to do it again, and then they become more frequent once they start doing it again, because then it's like, I'm invincible, I can get away with anything, and I like it, and it's like, I gotta go harder, I gotta go bigger, I gotta see what more I can get away with it. It's a big thrill to them. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the killer, though. And with this one, I do like how he's portrayed, because like you said in this, you're like, he's such a little bitch. Oh, and it's like, like, that's just it. Like, he wants to feel power. He wants to feel like a big man. But he's not. He's actually kind of a dork. Right? And when he's trying to be menacing in this and that, while he does do a good job of portraying crazy, he also is kind of weak and impotent. Like, she calls him out on it. It's like, she recognizes this in him, and it's what is able to stop him from going through with what he's doing, because she recognizes in him what he is from her years of analysis of people like this, and he is weak.
Yeah. Which is... Sorry, I was just saying, ultimately that is, like, what a lot of serial killers are, too, is they just want power, and because they feel weak and, infantilized or whatever. I really liked when he was in the Dahmer stage, like, him, I really like the scene of him at the club, because he's, like, trying to assume the persona of, like, what he imagines, like, how Dahmer would be, like, getting his victims, and he gets interrupted a few times by, like, one lady, like, bumps into
breaks
him,
him out of
breaks character,
yeah,
and he, like, calls her a bitch, and then it happens again, and he, like, has to, like, regain his composure and balance and everything. So I really liked that, and I kind of wish we had gotten a little bit more.
I agree.
We got to see him kill, or not, I don't know if it, I guess it was the kill, but with that poor girl that he has in his, like, basement.
Awful. Injects her with Windex.
Yeah, so, but I'm not familiar with the serial killers or killers.
Yeah, two killers.
Yeah, it's the two killers. So I don't know, like, what their whole thing was and whether or not he was trying to emulate something from them, like, as far as his personality goes. But I thought that was really interesting with how he acted like Dahmer.
But Dahmer's obviously the Helen's friend.
Yeah.
That's his.
Which is so sad.
Cuts his head off.
Yeah.
Which I thought when he cut his head off, I thought we were going to find the head in Helen's freezer.
Yeah.
Because this is what happened to Dahmer, right?
Right.
The cops came in, looked in his frickin' fridge and found the head,
It's
and
just so crazy.
It's barrel with some body parts in it. So I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always when you watch these things and because this is real kills that they're portraying in this, it's just a bummer, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I can't find any entertainment in it. It's not like when it's happening, it's like this actually happened to somebody.
Yeah.
Like this is awful.
Yeah.
And some get it worse than others. I mean, for sure. I would much rather, be shot to death or like drugged and never wake up. Right? That's just like that's not as bad as having Windex injected into you and
just
the
being
ammonia
tortured.
in your fucking oh my god.
It's awful.
Just,
And with what Helen says in the beginning too, and I think he even I think the killer, like, he says that he's in that crowd. I'm pretty sure he
we
says
just
he
get
like
a
saw her.
recording of it. So
I know, but he's
I
like,
don't
when
know
I
if
saw
he's-
you on that screen, you were larger than life.
So I think what he said by screen is I think somebody recorded it and he was playing back the recording for her, but he saw a recording of it.
I don't know. I kind of think that could be interpreted that he was in the crowd.
It's
So
possible,
I would be
but
curious
it seems
if
coincidental
he's
because
shown.
it's possible.
Well,
It just would be. It would be very unlikely that him and the killer, Daryl Lee.
Yeah.
I don't. Them being in the same room at the same time with the same woman that he's going to go after. That just seems overly
what would have
coincidental.
been fun is if, like, so she thinks she sees Daryl Lee in the crowd.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if it was him.
Oh yeah,
The
We don't
copycat,
know.
yeah. But that's not who it is. But anyway, I was gonna say, I guess she doesn't really. Oh no, she does. Sorry, she says it here where she's like, the state of Florida spent like $8 million or whatever executing Ted Bundy, and like he should have been kept alive so we can like study him and everything. And I think that's a really interesting stance. But then also, like, by the end of the film, the sentiment is definitely more like, this is an animal that we have to put down, really. And it's by the two victims, right? Like, by these women that are, like, the primary targets for serial killers, like, always.
Yeah.
So
the problem, of course, that we always run into, why the death penalty is going to always be something that's debated endlessly, is because we find out after execution, statistically, that 4% of people who were put to death were exonerated after the fact.
Yeah.
And if it's 4% that they found out,
yeah.
then it's higher than that, right? And any percent is horrendous.
Yeah.
It's like an innocent man is on death row and is executed. That's a hard pill to swallow, right? Now, it's also a hard pill to swallow that an innocent man is sitting in prison for the rest of his life, too.
Yeah.
So, the justice system is complicated, and these things
Corrupt.
now, if I'm a cop who is on the scene and I'm watching this guy do something horrendous and I get the shot and I know it's like a legal kill, I'm taking it. Right? Like, in that moment, it's like they're giving me that golden opportunity to put him down. It's like, oh yeah, I'm taking that
in
fucking
this
shot.
case too, I think with MJ, like, she does have to shoot him further because he has a gun.
Oh yeah.
Like, he is going to attack them. And you even called it how, like, she has that moment with her partner when they're at the training, like, grounds or whatever, and he's like all trigger happy, and she's like, you shoot him in the shoulder, and it's so messed up that, like, she does that move on him when that random guy at the precinct is like holding him hostage, and it gets him killed.
Yeah.
It's awful.
She critiques his style of diffusing a situation by being like, no, you're too gun happy, you just got to shoot him on the shoulder, and that renders them incapacitated. And she gives him shit for that, and then that's literally the thing that gets him killed because she does it.
Yeah.
That is brutal.
It's so
That's
sad.
a great piece of writing right there.
I did feel a bit like her character didn't get enough time to, like, process what had happened.
Yeah, she should have made mention of that.
I mean, they did, like, she had that moment with, like, the other guy that she, like, had a relationship with, and she was, like, crying and stuff. She's very stoic, and I think that's, like, what they were going for, is that, like, this is what police officers deal with. Like, they just have to, like, kind of suck it down and, like, or suck it up or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's very dehumanizing. And I would have liked to see her have more of, like, a reaction to it. But I do believe that, like, in the end, if he didn't have a gun, I don't think she would have shot him. I think she only shoots him because he's raising the gun to her. Because she shoots him perfectly, like she's supposed to, in the shoulder, and he, like, you know, steps back.
Yeah.
So I think that because he has the gun and is going to attack further, that's, you know, what causes her to shoot him.
Well, and it's, you know, it's kind of like a testament to her partner, right? Like, this one's for you.
Yeah.
This is what you would have done, and I'm doing it for you. And she shoots him, like, you know, 7-8 times. I shot him 6 times! I shot him in the heart!
Or like that one guy, like, I stabbed her 87 times.
That's such a bizarre thing that happens with serial killers, that, like, the police deal with so many false confessions.
It's so bizarre.
It is so fucking weird.
I mean,
it's like people who want to be known for being murderers, but they don't want to murder someone to do it. So it's like, I don't want to use the word, like, wimpy or whatever, but it's like they don't have the stomach. How about that? They don't have the stomach for killing, but they want the fame for it.
And they might also just not have the, like, I don't want to say brains, because obviously not every serial killer, like, that kills people is, like, intelligent. No. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to be smart to kill anybody. It's really weird. It's really weird, though. And I definitely worry that those people are, like, I hope that they get put on, like, watch lists or something in case they have, like, some type of, like, you know, mental break, or, you know, something pushes them over the edge, so to speak, and they do start, like, being violent. But I don't know what that is. I think it's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a hard pill to swallow as someone who's, like, taking this guy in, listening to his confession, then he releases him because it clearly doesn't match the MO.
Yeah.
And then it'd be an interesting way to cross yourself off as a suspect.
I know.
Come in and say that you did it, and then when they ask you, you fucking just say, like, all of the wrong details.
Yeah.
Like everything you read in the paper, you're like, I did this, and they're like, well, what about this? And you know what it is, but you're like, no, I didn't do that. You know, whatever. Yeah. And then they'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
I wonder if anyone's done that. Like, any...
It would be a thrill.
Obviously, serial killers do a lot of times, like, they'll reach out to the police or to the press or whatever.
They love to
return
to the scene of crime.
Yeah, and they like to taunt and everything. And, you know, it's so crazy. It's such a crazy phenomenon. And, you know, I definitely feel... We maybe have talked about this before, too, but, like, the 90s... The, like, 70s, 80s, 90s, like, that time, there was, like, serial killers. Like, that was what everyone was worried about. But I feel like now it's, it's mass shooters. Like, it's just totally a different breed of, you know, psychosis or whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, I mean, obviously there's still serial killers that are out there. I don't want there to be any that are, you know, infamous like the ones in the past, but I haven't heard of any that are like that, like that level.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully that's, like, they're just going down. Hopefully that's not something that continues to be a problem. But
I don't know if we've gotten a serial killer, you know, reported on. I don't know. I don't know if we've had one like a Dahmer or a Bundy or a Gacy.
Yeah. In
recent years. I feel like we would have. I can't imagine. But maybe most of them now are just like, well, yeah, sure, forensics is you do something like that, you're getting caught.
Well, and just the fact that there's
99.9%
like
of the time
cameras
now.
everywhere nowadays too. Like you have phone cameras and like.
So because they get caught after like one or two.
Yeah, they don't get the chance to become serial killers.
They don't get the body
which
count.
is good, and that's probably part of why people suddenly start becoming. Shouldn't say suddenly, but the rise in mass shootings is like, okay, take them all out at once. It's awful. It's so terrible to think about. But
another terrible thing is how she puts these guys on blast in the opening of this movie. I was like, damn, way to fucking like single us out.
I liked everyone's reactions.
She's like, all right, everyone stand up. All right, now all the women stand down. Now all the men under the age of 35 sit down. Now all the black and Asian men sit down. And then she's like, you see these guys, ladies?
This is what they look like.
Yeah, this is what serial killers look like.
But that's so true, though. Like, but that's what's so scary.
And they're all smiling in the camera. I would have been like...
I was going to say, I like their reactions because they're not all smiling. Some of them are nervously smiling and like kind of laugh and like looking at each other. And then other ones are like they look scared and they're like, what? And
a couple are like... No.
I like the reactions, but... Yeah. I mean, that's still true as far as, like, the demographic that's, like, violent and...
Yeah.
So...
It just, I mean, it depends, right? It's like, I don't know what the statistics are on these things, but I would assume, like, yes, white men kill, like, serial killers, primarily, in that scenario, or wife beaters, right?
Rapists, too.
Black men would be, I would say, the majority of their kills would be like gangland violence, right? Which is a totally different kind of mental issue, where there's just this desire to be a part of something and to prove that you're like fucking king of the street. Yeah,
there's like cultural implications, but I think there's cultural implications for all of them too. Like every violent crime has some like, societal like, it stems from something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy. I just am such like a non-violent person in everything, so I just can't imagine ever. But I still do find this type of thing fascinating. The 90s thrillers definitely are, like people that like true crime and stuff, like I think 90s thrillers are probably really appealing to them. And I do like true crime, but I have to take it in doses because it's depressing and really overwhelming, and it's like it's just there's such a huge difference from watching like fantasy violence on screen that nobody is getting hurt by or through versus hearing about like people actually getting murdered or tortured or whatever. It's just such a different thing. So, but I get the morbid fascination, definitely. I do find that like people that have personality disorders or whatever they're called, like it is fascinating, but it's also really scary.
Yeah, I'm curious on what the relationship to the like older woman with the dog and the copycat killer in this is. I don't know if he's like using her because she's kind of a layabout and isn't really observant.
Yeah.
And he can just like go down in the basement and do this. Like it seems like this is some chick he met and is like pretending to be into her.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So that he can like use
that.
her residence. And then he shoots her in the head. We don't end up finding out what happens to the dog.
The dog
I would
got
assume
away. That's what I'm going to say.
That he burned in the fire, unfortunately.
No.
But maybe he got out.
Left.
Maybe he got out.
Dog ran.
Maybe he Gordoned himself right out the window. Friday the 13th 4 style.
Yeah, he got out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
And then,
maybe.
And then I'm also bummed that Dermot Mulroney and Sigourney Weaver didn't bang when they had the chance.
I know.
Could have got him. She wanted to get laid.
They sort of had like a little triangle going on for a second. That was interesting because he was into his partner, but like...
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. He even says to Helen, like, because she's like, so, like, are you partners in all things? And he was like, not yet. I'm, like, working on it, or something like that. Yeah, he's into her. He brings her a cheeseburger.
Right.
He, like, is teasing her and is like,
I don't know.
Here's some
He seems to be like
shrimp tempura
a player.
instead. And, yeah.
He's got different girls.
Yeah, but they have
different
chemistry.
hoes and different area codes. And then Will Patton's character is like, they used to date, and he's like in love with her. That relationship in there. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him in this.
I don't really feel
when
like
he
it's
goes
necessary.
When he goes at Dermot,
yeah,
he's like, he doesn't go at him hard. He just is kind of like, don't break her heart.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're a player. Don't fuck around on her. So he's not like, I'm going to kick your ass or anything. It's like, just treat her well, please.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he's there for her. And then when he leaves, he's like, I love you. And when she doesn't say it back, he doesn't, like, push it. He just kind of walks away. He seems like an okay guy.
No, I think he's an okay guy as far as, like, the character goes. But I did find his, like, if I think it would have been, like, kind of the same movie without his character in there. I think what it adds and the reason he is in there is that it sort of makes, enhances obviously the drama, but the, like, lifestyle of the police officer.
Sure.
Like, your relationships
keeping it all in
all your coworkers.
Sure, this happens with a lot of, like, close-knit jobs. When you work very closely with people.
Yeah. Well, and they're working in, like, really heightened emotional situations, too,
That's
obviously.
why all service workers fuck each other.
Yeah.
Right, because they're kind of like...
They trauma bond.
They're in, like, a high-stress situation. Yeah. They're next to each other all day. And then they just, like, know we went through the same shit. Yeah. And then they get out of work and they all fuck each other. Yeah. Every restaurant I ever worked at, everyone was fucking each other. It's just I don't know any restaurant that was not the case. And of everyone I've ever talked to who works in restaurants, they're always like, oh yeah, everybody's fucking each other. So that's very, and I don't know if that's the same with police departments. I was never a cop, so I don't fucking know. But there's not a lot of women back then. There seems to be more now.
Yeah.
And back then, the women that were cops, I don't know if they're going to be a big hit with the guys they're in there with, but the girls now are definitely much, much, much more attractive. The cops I've seen as of late, in the last, like, 5 years, I've seen more good-looking women cops than I've seen what I would consider myself to be unattractive women cops. So I don't know where that shift happened. I don't know why there's so many attractive cops, at least here in Arizona.
People don't want to become police officers, so they're, like, giving more incentives or something.
They're like, I can be an influencer. I got OnlyFans or police officer. Well, I don't want to show my tits.
Yeah,
so
the 90s thrillers always make the cops out to be, like, they're really good guys. Like, they're on your side. They're going to solve crimes. They're going to get it all done. And
it depends.
Yeah, I mean, like, they have, like,
for the most
occasionally they'll have some that are, like...
They always have, like, one bad
Yeah, they have, like, one maybe bad cop. And, like, I'm sure that there are 90s thrillers where there are police corruption that's being explored. But the ones that we've watched so far... Yeah. All the cops are, like, these, down to earth, like, there to just protect the country and protect the citizens. And I'm sure that there are people that join the police force that have that intention, but I also think that there's probably a lot of people that are power hungry and they want the gun and the badge. So.
Sure, they get out of the military, it's the life they know,
and
they go into the police force and they become bullies.
Yeah.
And they were usually bullies in high school, and they stay bullies, and unfortunately, but not all of them, of course.
Not everyone.
I don't want to generalize, but
definitely the 90s thrillers do.
And the one last thing I'll say on this, and then we can end it here. The thing that definitely differentiates this from a majority of the other ones, especially all the ones we watched, is that there is no, like, twist reveal of a killer. Like, we follow this guy throughout the movie, so we know who he is. They show his face very early on. We follow his life, and I actually really like that.
I do too.
I find I find the like reveal killer to always be like super contrived.
I do too.
Right?
Yeah, I
As
agree.
to where like if you look at the best thrillers like that we've gotten, whether it's Silence of the Lambs, we know Buffalo Bill the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? We follow him. We see him abduct. We see him, imprisoning. Then we move over to John Doe in Seven, right? Like he's no one we knew throughout the film. He appears, he takes a photo in the thing, but we don't really see him. And then he comes into the police station and he's like, I think you're looking for me. So like, I feel like all the best thrillers like this do not do that. Like, oh, it's actually the cop you're working with or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. I definitely prefer like knowing the killer and following them alongside the people that are trying to find him, because it gives like some tension of like you see what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, are they gonna discover it? And like you see it's nice as the audience and the viewer to have more information than the protagonists do. Like, to know what the antagonist is up to, I don't know. It just is, I think it's more interesting. I think it's better storytelling than having, like, a twist.
This is why the Hannibal television series works so well.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the intricacies, the inner workings of Hannibal as he's with them. Now, they could try to do a twist, right, with that kind of storytelling, because he is with them on these cases.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, it's Hannibal. But we know it the whole time, mostly because it's Hannibal Lecter, and we already know who the fucking killer is when you go into it. But even if you didn't, they make it pretty obvious that it's him the whole time. And, I just feel like it's better this way. But the place that I prefer it the other way around and where it works best is in slasher movies.
Oh, sure.
The slasher movies are like typically detective films where the cops are on the outside trying to solve the mystery, and then you've got the group of like the average Joe characters that are just hanging out, the teenagers or whatever, and then one of them ends up being the killer.
Yeah, I feel like slashers have very little detective qualities to them. I think it's like very ancillary usually to the plot. I think, like you said, it's mostly you're following the victims themselves.
Sure.
And most of the time, the victims are totally clueless to what's happening to them.
Yeah,
You know, so
it depends.
but the twist works with like finding out who the killer is in that because of that format.
Sure.
Versus like when you have trained professionals that are detecting.
They do it very well in the Scream movies. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably
That's
where they
true.
do it the best.
Yeah.
Is as far as like the detective
And you have the press,
balancing
too.
with and media as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be one of the rare times you see me give kudos to the Scream franchise, but that's something that they excel at for sure. Speaking of Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's that. Copycat. You didn't hit record. Just kidding. I do that to her all the time.
my God.
I do that to her all the
We've
time.
done it before.
We have
We've
done it
done
before.
whole reviews and we didn't record.
Thank God it wasn't this one.
Yeah.
Because I would, oh my God, that would be
You would
terrible.
throw me off the balcony.
Never! No, because I got a copycat somebody else.
Oh.
I got to figure out a killer that would,
Throw me off a balcony?
no, it would, like, fit the crime, the punishment that fits the crime of not pressing record.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd have to, like, cut off your finger or something because you didn't. Right? Don't worry, guys.
The bone collectors?
I'm actually over 35. I'm a white male, but I'm over 35, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
out of the danger
You're
zone.
out of that zone.
Yeah, and I have never killed anybody.
Yet.
All right, guys.
Bye.